the sheer scope of grief and wasted human potential, we have a moral obligation to understand the ultimate reasons why we destroy one another.
Hi guys, welcome back to BurnMyMood Podcast. My name's Jay, and today I have a very special guest. Meet Louis.
Oh yeah, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good.
So tell everybody who you are, where you come from, all the things they need to know about you.
That's
and then
a deep one. That's a loaded question.
Okay, let's start with who are you in terms of what does everyone know you for?
So I'm Louis Ward. I am a barber at Hair Masters in Stony Stratford. What would they know me for? They'd know me, the old me, from being out and about in Stony, I suppose. I was a very sociable lunatic. Butterfly, there we go. Butterfly, prefer butterfly to lunatic, yeah. But I was, if you've been out in Stony, you would have seen me at some point, for sure, wandering around chaotically. Yeah.
Would you say that your life sort of like quite changed a lot recently as well?
Yeah, like completely. So say like I was the loosest of loose cannons that I know, which is a compliment to myself, but for way too long. And now, so now completely different, 11 months sober. So
well done.
So if you don't see me in Stony anymore in the pubs, so people would now probably know me as the sober one, not as the old version of myself.
You're a new parent as well?
New parent, yes.
How's that transition?
There's your reasoning for the 11 months sober, I suppose, when you work it out. He's 16 months old, so that also tells you that there was a crossover of not being able to adapt to it, really, trying to balance the old me and then suddenly being a parent. I was like, I thought it'd be an overnight change. Yeah. It isn't. It just isn't. Like, the story of when they're born, the moment you see them, you love them with everything that's inside you is so true, but it doesn't mean you can change a 15-year habit overnight. No. Because you've got a kid, it doesn't just go, brilliant, cool, never have a drink again. Like, so that took me 5 months to kind of start to realise that I can't be both of those people. Yeah. There's old Louis and then there's new Louis. There's the dad happens to be in between, and that's where the dynamic shifted. It went from that old version to the new version. It had to change because of him. So
was there like reasons as to what made you feel like you needed to change before the 5 months?
So I always knew I had a problem. I now look at it with sober eyes and know that I've had a drink problem since I was 21. But at 21 I thought, I'm just young and cool. I'm just living my life. I'm part of the group, man. Like, all right, I've been arrested 6 times, but who hasn't? For drunk and disorderly. Like, and there's clues there. There was
just gonna say you said who hasn't. I haven't.
But that sums up how I just thought that was the norm. I'm like, everyone's been arrested for drunk and disorderly. They haven't. Like, and I remember one true story. I got arrested for drunk and disorderly once. It was never bad. It was just spend the night in a cell, sleep out, go home, sort of thing. And I remember the guy saying to me once, sleep it off. And it was just a sleepover, like, in my little area. But he said to me, he goes, I've looked at your history. He goes, in the last 6 months, you've been arrested 4 times, all for drunk and disorderly. Do you think maybe drink's not for you? I was like, I'm starting to feel that way. And I was 23 and I just didn't learn then. Like, I just thought it was normal. I just thought that was what people did. They learned about what they could do and what they couldn't do, got themselves into silly situations. And I just thought that was the norm. I was a self-obsessed lad at 23. I just thought that was what everyone did, and it just isn't. That isn't what everyone does. It was just my life, and that's what my friends were like. So
it doesn't help as well because being British, it's actually really normal. Like this kind of lifestyle, the drinking culture, it only gets worse. Like since I was younger, it was quite bad anyway. But growing up and actually doing it all myself, I realised that no one really pointed out how bad my own habits were as well, because I'm also sober too. I've been sober for, I never really declared sobriety. I just kind of stopped drinking. And then there was a few things in that process that kind of knocked it on the head. So whenever I drink now, it's more an anxiety thing. So I get super anxious and I think,
when you drink.
I could literally take one sip of a glass of wine and I literally feel like I'm poisoning myself. My body starts reacting like, why are you poisoning yourself?
Why would you do this? Because I suppose it's also because if you do long sabbaticals without it, you realise what normality is like. And then when suddenly you change that, you're like, uh-oh, this isn't my normal feeling that I've had for the last 2 months, 3 months, 3 weeks, whatever that may be. Whereas I'd never done more than 3 days sober since I was 21.
Wow.
So that tells you the seriousness of mine. And obviously once I'd got through the first week, I was like, oh, is this how normal people feel? Like, is this it? Is this like, oh yeah, the sky is pretty blue, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I never, like, a mate of mine who's sober told me that. He said, you'll start to see colours different. And I was like, that's so exaggerated. That isn't a thing. It genuinely is. Like,
if anything,
I was like,
they're under.
they're underselling it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could smell colours, let alone see it. Like, it was like just completely different. I was just like, this is what I always thought that sobriety would be boring, and that was my problem. I was like, life's boring. I don't want to be boring. I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
I realised I might have been having fun, but nobody around me was. Like, people around me, my closest friends were all kind of like, it was wearing thin. I think they were only still with me as friends because they felt they had to be, because I'd been there since childhood.
Yeah.
I don't think
understand.
they were enjoying that around. I don't think they were going, oh, he's so fun to be around. I think I'd lost that version of myself, and I was becoming tough. Very tough. Like, yeah, that was a long...
People were becoming more worried about you.
Yeah. Like, I feel like work, obviously, Hairmasters, massive shout out to them. I was there for 5 years. My struggles got worse and worse and worse. And I say it was drink and it was drugs, and it was becoming, every time I drank, I did drugs, and it was just, I could not do one without the other. And it just completely took over. And then my inconsistency started setting in. I'd have at least 2-3 days off a month sick, and they kept sticking by me. And it got to a point when I was like, we can't do this. And I was like, I get it. Left for 2.5 years, got worse. And then once I'd sorted myself out, I went back to have a conversation, and they were like, look, the only reason you left was because you couldn't be consistent and we couldn't trust you. Like, you're only as good as your weakest member of staff. And I was certainly it. And now I've gone back there, and it's like, this is what normality is like. So they knew from early, and I kept saying to them, no, I'm just, because I'm fun, because I enjoy my life. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if you are, though. I convinced myself I was. I convinced myself that what I was doing was great fun.
I get it.
I was like, yeah, it's just great fun. Like, going out Saturday night and then staying up till Sunday and then writing Monday off and then working Tuesday. It was like, well, this is just normal, right? And it just, as you said, it's about the UK style of, we're lad. It's not, it's cool until it isn't.
Yeah. I remember, I think I would probably categorize my drinking issue as an addiction. So I would go to work midday, I'd start making the plans
already.
I'm like, right, who's out? Do you guys want to get food?
WhatsApp group chat straight in.
And I can convince them over food to come for a drink afterwards. It got so bad that I was like doing it every single day of the week, especially after COVID, because before I smoked cannabis for like 7 years. And then I replaced that with drinking. So my drinking problem got 10 times
just
worse.
Switched one for another.
Oh, yeah. I just thought, how am I going to get through this? Drink.
I know. I'll go for a worse option.
Which is so much worse, isn't it? And my body was reacting differently. Like, I developed a gluten intolerance because of drinking.
I saw you say about this in one of your videos.
Crazy. So like now I have a sensitive stomach. Like, it's not as intolerant. Like, I have small doses of it. But I still have to buy the expensive option of food just because it doesn't have gluten in. And sometimes I'll have like something small, but it's just a massive inconvenience. And that's all because I just abuse drinking.
That. And that's mad.
When I was younger, I've kind of done it really backwards, because when I was really young, I grew up with a parent who had huge alcohol problems. And so when I was younger, like 14, 15, maybe even 13, when I sort of started drinking, a lot of my friends were doing their first drunk, and I was always quite the parent role in my friends. So I would never, like, if I got drunk, I was fine. Like, I never got a hangover. I never would black out. I would never experience like...
You were never white girl wasted, as they call it. You never got to that point.
I got worse smoking weed than I did drinking. Like, I'd be like, But I never felt like out of control of myself. And then as I got older, I kind of built this life for myself where I was really independent. I got my own house really young. And I kind of was like, okay, I'm free. I can do what I want, spend my own money, do what I want to do. And since COVID, that's kind of when I was at home all the time. So I felt even safer because my tenancy kept rolling over. So I was like, this is all fine.
All cushy.
Yeah, and then probably that was around the time when I was drinking every day that I started blacking out while drinking.
Oh, okay.
So
Which was a new feeling.
Yeah.
Something you'd never had before.
Never.
Yeah.
So I'd never, in about just under 10 years, like never blacked out. I've got really drunk. I put myself in, obviously, I've been wasted.
Yeah.
But from a young age, it kind of was like I developed that instead of starting at that.
So the opposite way around. Yeah, like it's as if you had the tolerancy at the beginning, but you drank past the tolerancy. Like you found it. Like you found your level and went, oh, it's here. And then it was too late. Like, yeah. Yeah, because
once I started blacking out, I couldn't stop. So I would like drink less the next night. I would stop drinking certain drinks. It didn't matter what I did. I blacked out every single time.
That's mad, So I did that for a purpose choice, as in get so messed up that there was no option other than to sleep, because I just keep going on, especially because it was mixed with coke. That was my thing. It was like I'm just doing one up, one down, and I'm just like trying to constantly find this middle part. And I always felt, and I stick by this. This is one of the weirdest things that I say. I genuinely believe that my drug problem was me trying to help others. That sounds ridiculous, I know. But because if I had 8 pints and no drugs in my system, I would be a shambles. I'd be falling over the place. I'd be knocking stuff over. I'd be breaking stuff. Whereas if I had the drugs, it balanced me and got me back onto a level, and I was okay to be around. Yeah. So I was like, well, if I don't do that, and I did it at a wedding, I didn't do the other stuff because the guy's brother was a policeman. So I obviously was like, I stick to your plans. I won't take any drugs to the wedding. And I fell over and smashed the place to bits and ruined his wedding reception. And I'm now known his father-in-law. I was supposed to play golf with them a couple of weeks ago. And they said, oh, yeah, Lou's coming. And he was like, the gearhead. Because that's what he remembered. The father-in-law met me once. And that was the perception he had of me. And I'm like, oh, my God, I never knew that people had that. I thought they saw me as the fun guy.
Yeah.
But I realised that someone who doesn't know me from school and from my childhood and growing up didn't see me that way. They saw me as a loose cannon, to say the least, and that's really bad. And that's the first time I'd heard that. My mate said I wouldn't have told you that at the time because it would have really affected you. Yeah. Whereas he tells me now I'm 11 months sober, I actually like hearing that stuff because it shows me why I'm not that guy now.
Yeah, you're a totally different person now.
No one would, people that would meet me now in the last 11 months, they go, who's Lou? Oh, he's the barber guy. He's sober, does the ice baths. Like, I'm like, oh my God, in 11 months, I've gone from that to that. And it's like, it's a massive dynamic switch for me.
Yeah, it's a big change. And I feel like you kind of get this natural high. I don't know if you're at that stage yet.
Yeah, 100%.
Where you start experiencing, like, you could be in a situation, you could literally be at work or something, and you're just like, I feel amazing right now.
Euphoric over something that is quite mundane for others. That's my thing. 100%. Like,
and it's a real thing. And when I used to see it, I used to think, oh, I hope I get to that stage, whatever. And then I have got to that stage, and I can go to festivals, to shows, because obviously he does Alex does that for work, and I have been doing it pretty much sober now for about 2 years. So it kind of started just over 2 years ago. I went to a brunch. And I'd never been to a brunch before.
Sober.
No, I did this. This was the last time I got drunk.
Oh, I see. Right.
So
oh, wow.
I went to a brunch, and I thought, I'm not going to lie, I thought a brunch is where you go and eat and bottomless food, right?
Oh, you thought bottomless brunch meant eat like buffet?
Oh, you can eat, yeah. And the theme was, it was like a fancy dress theme. I was going with loads of girls, so I was like, this is going to be really fun. The theme was Britney Spears. We all dressed up as different versions of Britney Spears.
I like it.
We go there.
You thought this is excessive for food?
Yeah, and I promise you, I said to Alex as I got out of bed in the morning, I'm not really feeling like getting drunk. I'm probably just going to have a drink because I get it for free. Like, it's included in, well, it's not free, but you've already paid for it. So I remember going, and this was probably the one time I was such a big liability that I put myself in danger again. And it was like, this time I now have someone to worry about me. Like, I don't live on my own anymore. There's no one in my life that can tell me what to do. But
there is repercussions.
There is people that I'm actually worrying, stressing out. And I thought, this is just not the time. But what happened was I got drunk, and I thought, I'm not that drunk. I'm normal drunk,
Until you wasn't.
Everyone else was really drunk. They went home, and me and one of my friends were like, we were enjoying our conversation so much. We were like, oh, let's just go to another bar on the way to the train station. And we went to this bar, and I don't remember anything after it.
Oh, wow.
And we must have had think it was like 2 or 3 cocktails, and that's all it took. If you get porn star martini, it's kind of double drink, isn't it?
Yeah, you're doubling down on the double already. Yeah.
And
already drunk as well going into that situation.
It was not the wisest idea on my behalf. And what happened was, I mean, it's funny to look back on, but at the time it was awful for everyone else. Yeah, it's only because I didn't remember it I found it funny. Yeah. But you don't realise what you're putting other people through in that, because they have to sober up. Yeah. Because they are now babying someone. Like it's horrible. It's horrible. It's very rare that I was ever the parent in that role. I was always the one being babied, so I know what you mean by that. Yeah. That's horrible. And it was so scary. So I got on the train. I got on the wrong train. So my friend lives in Kettering, and she gets a completely different train from London to Kettering. But I don't know what happened, but she said to me, or that I had called my partner and said, can you get me from Kettering? I'm too drunk to go home by myself. Yeah. So I'd made that call, which is something I've never done in my life. Don't remember making that call. And I got on the train with her, and there's this thing I do when I drink. I fall asleep, right? Just KO. Doesn't matter where I am. I've slept in Pink Panther's toilets for 3 hours before. Nice. And just remember people knocking on the door. Nothing ever happened. Yeah. Like, it happens very, like, regularly. Like, when I used to get drunk with the lads, I would come home for like a zoot before Pink Panthers, and I would fall asleep, and they'd all just go, because they'd be normal thing for her. Yeah. And on this train, my friend didn't know me well enough in the sense of that I would fuck off and go to sleep. Right. So I've like gone, I'm going to go to the toilet. So I don't know whether I was planning on being sick, but everyone in my life who's known me for long enough kind of knows that's a key thing where I'm like, I'm going to go sleep. Yeah. So I've gone to the toilet. All I remember is like 2 pictures in my head. I can remember sitting on the train just for a picture, not even like what was happening. And I can remember looking at the train floor. Like, so I don't know what had happened. I don't know whether I'd hit my head in the process. I don't know. But I was asleep on this toilet for hours. Next up, Glasgow. Yeah. So I think it took me to Leicester, which is like nearly a 2-hour drive from Kettering. Yeah. And I left my phone, my bag, everything on the train. And my friend she probably just doesn't know where I am. So she's taken my stuff and given it to my boyfriend at the station. And he's gone, well, where is she? She's not. And she was also just as drunk as me. So she's like, she's was not able to articulate yeah, she's like, I don't know where she's gone. Like, and he's like, did she go to the toilet at any point? Because she's probably fallen asleep. Yeah. So luckily, like, he was so vigilant, if that's the right word. Yeah. He called British Transport Police. Brilliant. See it, say it, sort it. So he called British Transport Police, and have you seen a steaming drunk girl anywhere in England? Just like, which version is she? We've got 6 here. It's so funny. Obviously at the time it was not funny for anyone watching. But as you said, you can look back at it now and laugh, but I bet it weren't at the time. Yeah, it wasn't at the time. All I know is the next thing I remember after that picture on the floor is me being held up by 2 people. So 2 girls had my arms like literally walking me off. I must have still been asleep, or half asleep, or half responsive, because I also talk in my sleep. Is this in Leicester? This is coming off the train at Leicester Station. Right, okay. So the next thing I remember is I'm slowly sobering up. So I'm waking up, basically. I'm waking up and I'm like, where the fuck am I? 2 people are holding me. I'm like, oh, thanks. And they're like, are you okay? I'm trying to tell them things, but I'm so drunk, I'm slurring it out. You know what you're trying to think, but the words aren't coming. Yeah, and I'm like, where's my stuff? They said, you don't have any stuff. I thought, oh God, here we go. And the security guard, it was the last train, so he's shutting the station. And I'm like, I need you to call someone. Yeah. I'm like, I need you to call my boyfriend. But I was so drunk. At the time, I didn't know my boyfriend's number off by heart. We'd only been together for about a year. Well, not many people know it anymore anyway, because it's like, it's in your contacts. Right? I don't know. Now I know. I don't even know. Yeah, I suppose you had to learn it after this incident. Every time you get on a train, you're like, 077 642. Yeah, literally. And then I told the security, and the security guard was like, oh no, it's the end of my shift. And I was like, no, seriously? I was like, if I was your daughter, you're working overtime, you would want someone to do this. I was like, I'm a very vulnerable position right now. So then he was like, let me just radio. He kind of was like almost fobbing it off. And then he called and he went, is your boyfriend called Alex? And I went, yeah. And he went, think so. He's already called. And I was like, thank God. So he then radioed yeah, she's here in Leicester. So he had to drive to Leicester from Kettering. Yeah, and to add to that, I knew this as well, but I was so drunk I forgot about it. I knew that he had no car at the time. It was in the garage. So he had to wake up his mum to come and pick me up at 3 a.m. Right? And obviously at the time, he must have left at like midnight.
Yeah.
And then has got to Kettering, had to go to Leicester. And they're stressing for hours about my safety. Mm-hmm. He luckily knows someone in Leicester, one of his friends, so he got him to come meet me. And he was so grumpy, he did not want to talk to me. He was like, "This girl's just woke me up." So he didn't say much to me. He was just like, "You good?" I was like, "I'm all right." And I'm trying to chat, and he's just like,
sat there singing "Hit Me Baby One More Time."
Yeah, he's just looking at his phone like, well, how long's this guy gonna be? Because it was just like so inconvenient.
That is a definition of inconvenience.
And then on the way home, I thought the situation was really funny, and then I quite quickly misread, then read the room like, this is not funny. Everyone's terrified.
Well. Yeah.
So the next day, I'm like telling the girls about it, and Alex is saying to me, "This is not funny. Like this has scared everyone."
Yeah.
So then I had to kind of tell them in private how funny I found it and stuff like that.
Do you know, I also think that's a bit of a defense mechanism as well, because you're like, yeah, well, I had fun, and you look at it after now, like you say now, with sober eyes, and go, yeah, I've actually affected about 5 different people's lives there by my poor decision making.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you say, obviously, Al, you've then got his mum who's had to be woken up. You've then got the mate who's had to like meet a random steaming drunk person.
It's so embarrassing.
Yeah, all because of one. Yeah. Or too many porn star martinis. That's how quickly it can change, right?
Yeah.
Whereas,
that was the last time that I blacked out in a situation and I'd taken it too far. Yeah. So before that, there was probably a series of events before that where I'd continued blacking out. I'd wake up, none of the bedding was on the bed because I'd thrown up in my sleep, and that was becoming quite a frequent thing. Yeah. So then, I kind of thought, okay, now I'm affecting everybody else's life.
The washing machine as well.
Yeah.
My water bill's double.
So I was just like, I think I'm just gonna have to knock it in. So I stopped drinking for a while, and then I went through some loss in the past year. Mm-hmm. So I lost one of my friends, which kind of I had a drink that day. Yeah. But when I was drinking, it wasn't getting me drunk. No. I think I was just in shock about the situation. Yeah. And the exact same thing happened when another one of my friends passed. So in that process, I hadn't really drunk much between them either. Yeah. Because that was over about 11 months. So in that process, I kind of just thought, this isn't for me. And any time I've tried to touch an alcoholic drink since, I have a panic attack. That's the anxiety part, yeah. Yeah. So my body's just going, you're poisoning yourself. Yeah. And so that's kind of what knocked it on the head for me. That was kind of the pinnacle moment as such. Well,
it's that, for me, a lot of people said to me, epiphanal moment. That's the word I use a lot with the day that I went sober. Everyone talks about rock bottom. I was talking to David at Hairmasters, the boss at Hairmasters, and said to him about things like that. And he goes, "Oh, tell me about your rock bottom." I was like, "Which one?" He's like, "What? There's only one." I went, "No, mate, there's not. There's 100 rock bottoms. That one you've told would have been one of your rock bottom moments. Yeah. But there would have been others as well where you've maybe gone too far with it." I had worse moments, 100 times worse moments, that I still 2 days later had a drink after. Yeah. Whereas the one that actually made me go sober wasn't that bad of a night. It was forgotten in the sense I got home and was like, looked at the time and it was 4 a.m. and I don't know how, because the pub closed at 11. So what happened in those 5 hours, I don't really know. I think I walked home, and it's a 20-minute walk. Yeah. So God knows what happened. But I look back at that and think, you have that epiphanal, what on earth am I doing? What am I doing? And obviously mine was, my son was upstairs asleep, and I'm downstairs, and I thought, if anything happened right now, I am useless. And that must be so scary. It's scary. My missus obviously wasn't drinking, and she was in bed. She was in bed at 9-10 o'clock, what time are you going to be home? And I just completely ignored everything or missed the messages or whatever. So I was never in a position where I put myself that my son would have been knackered if something happened. But I was always like, well, she's there. And that's such a cop-out. But if something bad would have happened, bear in mind he was 5 months old, I'd look at that and think, I would have been useless that night. That night when I went sober, I didn't go to bed. I stayed downstairs in the kitchen. My missus came downstairs and was like, what's going on? And I was just in bits. I just could not stop crying. And I was like, uh-oh, this is real. I'm in trouble. And I said to her, I was like, I'm in real trouble, aren't I? And she was like, yeah, yeah, you are. And it's weird how you have those. I don't know what was different that day compared to another time. I don't know why it was that day, but it just so happened to be. Yeah, something just went, come on, mate. it was literally like the angel and the devil on the shoulder, and the devil always won. For once, the angel actually started speaking a bit louder. And I was like, I've just got to sort this out. I have to sort this out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Why then? I don't know. But I suppose same yourself, that those times that you've had, you'll then go, no, that's it. Done.
Yeah. I hope you feel proud of yourself though.
I do. Like, it took me a while that did take me a while. So like, I've always been, I feel like I've always needed people's well dones in every sense. I always wanted people to kind of give me adulation for stuff that didn't matter. I wanted, if I was stood at a bar, I've had it many a times when I've heard someone, I've gone to the toilet, I've come back, and the people that are in front of me don't know I'm behind them. And they're like, oh, Lou's a funny guy, isn't he? Oh, mate, he's so funny. I get this like endorphin boost of, I'm funny. And I'm like, why does that matter what this Bob fella thinks about me?
Yeah.
I should really think about what my partner thinks about me and what my future son, obviously now being born, thinks about me. All I cared about was what everyone thought about me, wanting to be this and that. Now it's kind of like, no, I just need to be really proud of myself. And I am like so proud of myself.
Good.
If someone said to me, no one ever has, but if someone's had a negative portrayal of me, I'd be like, oh, it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
Because I'm so happy in myself. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If someone said, yeah, he's not that cool, actually, I'd be like, I don't want to be cool anymore. I'm quite happy not to be cool. Like, I'm quite happy to be dull now. Like, it's a good trait to have, I think.
Have you ever experienced like anyone trying to convince you to have a drink?
No. Only because, which is why I went so public with the sobriety.
Yeah.
So I had an attempt at sobriety 2 weeks before the actual correct one that worked. So I got to 8 days, which is the longest I'd ever been sober. I got to 8 days, and I went to a meeting, which I don't do meetings. I've been to 3 meetings in 11 months about drinking drugs. One was AA, one was NA for Narcotics Anonymous. I went to the meeting. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because it's anonymous, but it is. I'm allowed to talk about it. I just can't name other people. Yeah. So NA is Narcotics Anonymous, but so you're allowed to talk about yourself, but not other people in the meetings. But I went to one of the meetings and I said to him, and I knew I was going to slip up. I knew it was coming. I was on day 7, and I said to them, I have a problem. And they said, what's your problem? And I said, my partner doesn't want her family to know about my troubles. Her family know that I drink. They knew that I drank to excess. They knew that I'd had issues. They'd seen me and her fall out over it. They'd seen me and her break up over it in the past. So they knew I had a drink issue, but didn't know that I was a functioning alcoholic. They certainly didn't know that I had a drug problem.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, she didn't want it to be public because I was the father of her child.
Yeah.
And she was worried at how it would look on her, which I completely understood. Because they'd be like, why the hell do you have a kid with him then? And I get that. But in my eyes, I was like, I've been so selfish all my life. I really need to be selfish here. I don't think I can be sober without it being public to stop what you've just said there. People going, oh, Lou, do you want a beer? Of course I fucking want a beer. Like, I'm an alcoholic. So if you offered me one, yes, I would take one. So I needed to stop that being a thing. So she said, no, I don't want them to know. Cool. Next day, straight down the pub. And I got to set 8 days, and then I bottled it on the 8th day because I was like, well, if I can't do it my way, I'm not doing it anyway. And that was it. I'd fallen apart. Yeah. Then 2 weeks later, the epiphanal moment came, and I just straight up said, call them now. Call them now. They have to know. I cannot do this without it being public. I need to go on. I need everyone to know. I need it to be public. I need it to be on social media. I need to start kind of publicising about it, start videoing things. I need that to be a thing. Yeah. And she did. Fair play to her. She did. She called her parents. I feel she may have obviously skirted around it as best as she could to make sure they didn't need to know the in-depths of it. I have spoken to them since. When we got engaged, I asked her dad for his permission, and I said, we haven't had the chat since I went sober. Do you want to do it now? And we had a 45-minute to an hour chat about it all. He said everything that he wanted to say, and he had the correct questions that I would have asked the partner of my daughter if I had one. The ones that he said, I hope you don't think I'm being... I said, ask anything. Like, I have to be open about that because I don't want his permission to marry his daughter if he's got question marks over me as a person. Yeah. And whether he thought I was going to slip. I know I'm not, but no one else knows that. Yeah. So people might see from the outside and go, yeah, well, 11 months ain't that long. I've never done more than 8 days.
Yeah. 11 months is long.
11 months is ridiculous. Like, I never thought I'd get past a month. So to be 11 months now, I know that it's not a flash in the pan. I know that it's my life now. So... And
Have
I'm
you
okay with that.
found things in replacement? You know, like when you kind of stop drinking,
Like you said, with the weed
yeah,
to alcohol.
yeah. Like, do you experience or find peace in boredom now, or do you other things? Like, I know that you post some content now, which is what I see is quite creative. I do the same thing.
I find, so there's no question I'm an addict in every sense. And I spoke to my mum about it. She said she was an addict as a kid with football. And it wasn't just your typical, oh, he loves football. I knew the date of births of every player. I knew their squad numbers. I knew their mother's maiden names. It was weird, borderline autistic knowledge on sport and on Chelsea, on football and things like that. And my dad said, you just did that until you turned 18 and then you just switched it to alcohol. And then I switched it to drugs and then it was drink and drugs. And I was like, oh my God, I'm an addict in every sense. And I just decided, I didn't purposely decide it, but I was like, I need to switch it to something else. So when I went sober, it just so happened to be I took a month off work and I played golf 3 times a week.
Nice.
I got into golf and I was like, oh my God, I'm getting out of the house. I'm walking 10K every time I play golf. So I was doing 30K a week and walking just on golf. And then I was like, I actually enjoy this and I like this. And then obviously my son is my addiction in every sense. My addiction now is being the best parent I can possibly be. But golf was one for me that got me through that early part of, what do I do? I was just ticking days off. Yeah. I'll be honest. I'd look at the day and I'd be like, it'd get to 7 p.m. and I'm like, oh no, this is prime time.
Yeah.
So what do I do now? And I'd then go, driving range, get me out for an hour. And I'd just go, it was just killing time. But I still do it, but nowhere near as much. I play once a month now. So I don't have a thing as much. I'm trying to get back playing football. I did the gym. I've lost 2.5 stone in the last 11 months.
Go on.
Yeah. So like all of it came together. I passed my driving test. You just like 15 years of shit. And then 11 months I've managed to get my life together. You're like, oh, you get a little bit of bitterness with that.
Oh,
you're
definitely.
Like, why did I not just do this 15 years ago? Where could I be now? Like, I'd be like, I don't know where I'd be. I would have messed it up at some point. It was meant to be the way it was meant to be.
Yeah. You kind of feel like you're a bit above yourself now, if you know what I mean. You're like, God, I kind of look down at my own nose at myself.
100%. Yeah. Like I look back at old stuff, like because I was such a social media whore, Snapchat was my thing because it backed it up. So you'd do your Snapchat, I'd save it to the camera roll and then it would back it up. So it was always in Snapchat and they all exist. Every day, I still do it now. Every day without fail, I look at my memories to remind me why I'm still sober. Yeah. And I come up 2 years ago today and I look at it, I'm like, state of it. We actually met. I don't know if you recall it. It was about 7 years ago in Lloyd's at the City. You was with your friend that had a daughter.
I was actually telling Alex this story the other day.
And that we're talking well before Hairmasters because I would have been.
I actually met you before that though.
Did you meet me before that as well?
So at that bar, we were actually talking about how I knew you.
And how was it? Did we find the link?
So, yeah, I think I figured it out either right at the end because I think my friends wanted to go and I was like, no, we're going to figure
work this out,
where I know
and
you
we were
from.
just chewing each other's ear off all night. Like, I know you from somewhere. I don't know where it is. You remind me of someone. Like,
definitely.
Yeah, and we were like arguing over it. I remember that. And that was in Lloyd's, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember that. But that summed it up. I just mess that night. I dropped drinks everywhere that night, and I'm just like, give me attention. That was all. I was just such an attention whore, and it came up on it comes up on my Snapchat memories once a year, and you're in the photo. And I'm like, I knew it was her.
I want to see
all the
that
years.
photo.
I will find the photo. I can't remember the girl's name, but she was the one that had
Samantha.
That was it. Yeah, she had a child not long after.
Yes.
That was it. Yeah.
Yes.
And she's in the photo as well. Yeah, that's how I knew it was that kind of era, but. That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. Where I actually know you from, where we were speaking about it on that day when we met in the bar, I recognised you and I thought, I remember listing, like, did you ever go ice skating in MK? Yeah. Where'd you hang out with your friends? Like, I know you from somewhere. I actually know you because you used to work as a hairdresser. Yes. And you did my hair when I was like 16. And the reason I remember it as well is because that was the first time I had my hair done blonde highlights. It took all day because my hair wouldn't take. Yeah. And you left your job afterwards. So
is this at Capelli?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah. So
I was like, and just so you know, this is like standout thing in my life, but every time I get a new hairdresser, they leave their job. So every time, like my current hairdresser, she actually comes to me now. So she left like, I think it's happened to me about 3 or 4 times. I'll finally find someone I'm like, I trust you to do my hair because I've looked at the work you've done before. And I'm very funny about the roots situation. Obviously at the moment I'm not, but I was at the time when I really obsessed about my appearance. And yeah, you left your job, and I remember saying to you, another time I'd seen you, I was like, now I know where you're from.
Now I know who that's it. Oh yeah, it would have been Capelli. Yeah, that's where I met Lucianne, my partner.
Really?
She was one of the hairdressers there. I just started out there. I left.
Love that.
Where I'd been for 6 years to join there because I wanted to. This tells you a lot about, again, my drinking situation. Every time it got bad, I'd just push reset and push self-destruct, and I'd leave a place and start all over again and think, that's what I needed. No, the drink's the problem. But I felt if I start a new job in a new place, that will sort it. It doesn't. It just gives you a fresh... They don't know my issues. So you get about a year leeway until they realise that, oh my God, this guy's a bit of a loose cannon. Like, and then you just go, okay, bye-bye, and then start somewhere else again. So Hair Masters was the longest. I left Capelli because I was working there with Lucianne. We'd got in a relationship and she got made assistant manager, and it just changed the dynamic. All we did when we got home was talk about work. And I was like, I don't enjoy this anymore. Like, as in, I need to leave the salon. So I left there, went to Hair Masters because they just had the fire in the high street, moved down to the other end of the high street. So I was like, okay, cool. This is like, I'll go with them. So that's why I went back into barbering full time. And then I was there for 5 years. That was the longest I'd stayed in a place throughout all of my troubles. But so that's why I left Capelli. Ironically, due to it wasn't due to my drink, but it was like I knew that it was getting a little bit like, and they're starting to see through me here a little bit, and see that I'd go to lunch dead opposite the plough on a Saturday. I just stood and looked at it all day, like, I don't want to be doing this hair. I want to be in that pub. And I'd purposely have my lunch at a certain time, and they're like, you ain't going to the pub, are you? I was like, no, of course not. I'm going to the fish and chip shop. I'd walk to the fish and chip shop and then cut back on myself and go in the back door so they couldn't see me going. And then, you're like, yeah, I might have an issue here. Like, I was drinking on the job at like 24 years old. So yeah, it's
and
been
when
there
you
for a
also
while.
feel like you've kind of got to either twist the truth or just blatant lie. Like, be sneaky or sly. That's when you kind of start thinking, maybe I do have a problem.
100%. There's no reason to lie if it's not a problem with anything. Like, that could be anything about relationships, could be anything about friendships. If you say something that isn't the truth, you think it's probably because the truth's not a good thing. That's going to cause an issue or a rift or whatever. So I had that. And it's funny enough, when I was talking to Aaron at Hair Masters, one of the other bosses, he said, sharing too much information, he goes, you know, you used to go for a number 2 all the time in the Fox and the Hound. I said, yeah. He said, I assume that was for a beer, right? I went, no, that was for a number 2. He went, you've never drank on lunch while working here back when you was at your worst? I went, no, I actually didn't. He said, so why did you go to the toilet all the time? I went, because I was an alcoholic and my guts were a mess and I couldn't use the staff toilet. So I'd always go to, because they'd know, because then they'd be like, oh my God, your lifestyle's so bad. So I'd go there, but he thought I was going to drink every day. He said, I've genuinely thought you were drinking, having a beer on your lunch every lunch. I was like, no, that was real. So that shows that even from the outside, it becomes boy who cried wolf. I actually wasn't drinking. But they're like,
it becomes an expectation.
Well, he must be because he always does. So it literally is. It became that towards the end as well. So it's nice that that's not a thing anymore. Now I can just go for a poo in peace. But now he is going for a shit. I know.
Well, I'm glad you're on the other side of it. It's not easy.
No.
Would you have any advice for anybody watching that is not quite self-aware enough that they know they need to stop, but just maybe something to encourage them to think about it?
So my biggest thing is, if you can go out and have a drink and go home at 10 o'clock and go to bed and go to work the next day and feel fine, you don't have a problem. You're okay. Crack on. I'm not him. I am not that guy, and I'm fully aware of that. So I would never, ever, ever push it on someone. It's like if you're really Christian and go, you have to be Christian, or you're vegan, you can't eat meat. I'm not that sober guy that goes, stop drinking, it's bad for you. It's great for you if you can do it in the correct way. So if people are questioning, the biggest thing, if you think you may have a problem, you probably do. Because yourself isn't the liar. You can't lie to yourself. You can convince yourself otherwise, but you can't lie to yourself. I can't tell myself I'm 6'2". I'm 5'4". I'm aware of that. Same with the alcohol. I knew that I had a problem. So if you feel that you have, then address it. And the biggest issue for me was my FOMO. But what if I miss out? What about my friends? My friends won't love me anymore. if they're friends, they will. It's so cliche, that line.
And you do lose friends.
You do, and you're supposed to.
Yeah.
You're
not supposed to be friends with the people you were friends with at 12.
No. I had the closest group growing up. There was 18 of us on the lads' holiday at 19 years old. I don't know what 16 of them are doing now.
Yeah.
And it hurts me because, again, that was due to my mistakes. I broke that group up because of a drunken night where I really messed up, and I lost the whole group. And luckily I was in a relationship, so I went, good, I wanted to be with her anyway. So, but I lost my whole friendship group. Yeah. But now when I see what they're doing as a group, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't fit in that now anyway. They're all doing well. They've all gone their separate ways. They've all had children. Some of them all like a photo, but most of them don't. Most of them completely ignore that I exist, and that's okay now. Yeah. Because I don't need them now, because I'm not 21 anymore. I'm not the 21-year-old Lou that they knew. So you have to look at it. If you are thinking that maybe I've got a problem and I'm worried about losing my friends, my best mate, who is our whole friendship was about alcohol. Our whole friendship was about that. When I went sober, I was worried about losing him as a friend. And he was like, right, let's find out how close we really are then, shall we? And 2 weeks later, we bought a golf clubs and everything. Aww. And I was like, you've never hit a golf ball? We went, well, it's your thing, so I best get into it. And now we play golf together.
Oh, what a true friend.
That's a real friend, yeah. Whereas other ones that you lost, they don't care. There's people in the high street that I spent a lot of time with in the pubs and that. I said, hello, mate, you're right. I ain't seen you in ages. How you doing? Yeah, good. Yeah, see you later, mate. Bye. You're like, they don't give a shit. But I spoke to them every night. I chewed their ear off for years because I was just a loser trying to get someone's love and attention, really. So if you feel you have that kind of personality and it's becoming a problem, you just need to look at it and realise, is it? If you can go a week and say, right, I'm not drinking for a week, and you can do that and feel okay and then go back to it just a weekend, then you probably don't. Yeah. But if you can't do that, then it's tough. And I've always said my DMs are open for things like that. I've had messages from people. I get more messages from people that I don't know or barely know or have met 2 or 3 times saying, well done, I'm so proud of you, this and that, and you're this, you're that, and I want to talk to you about this because I'm worried about myself with this, than I do from people that I really would have expected it from. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna out my own family, but my mum's brilliant for it. She's like my biggest cheerleader, but there is family members that I look there and think, yeah, not even a
where were you?
Yeah, not even a pat on the back. Like, but it is what it is. Yeah. It is what it is, and I'm okay with that now. I wasn't at the beginning. I wanted everyone to go, well done. I wanted everyone to pat me on the back at the same time. Yeah. And then I realised I wasn't doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. Yeah. The sooner you realise that, the better. If anyone feels that that's what the route they want to go down. Yeah,
and it's tough as well. Like, would you say a lot of your goals in your life have changed? Yeah. So, like, I always thought to myself, I just want a roof over my head. I don't give a fuck what career I have. I don't care how I make my money. I just want to make money, like, pay for my lifestyle. Yeah. And once I stopped drinking, I kind of had a bit of a midlife crisis or quarter life crisis. And I thought, I really want to have a passion. Yeah. Because my passion was travel, and that's not really the same kind of passion if there's nothing there to back that up. Like, if I haven't got a career I like or a job paying me well enough to do those things, then I had to kind of change all my goals. So now I finally found something I enjoy. Like, this is one of my passions. I love having conversations that are meaningful with people and talking about things that some people are not comfortable enough to talk about. And sometimes it's more difficult to do by myself. I like to talk to people who I feel like kind of fit with the things I want to talk about. A lot of mindfulness type of conversations.
There's no dullness to the chat. Like, I suppose maybe that's down to the pub chat, which is mind numbing, right? It's crap. We chewed each other's ear off for an hour trying to work out that I did your hair once. That's like, do you know what I mean? That's what it doesn't get you anywhere at the end of it. And you think, where were we between all that? Like, it was just crap chat. Whereas now, like, I agree with that. Like, you change everything. I don't have the time or patience for it. Yeah. So, like, if someone wants to sit and go, like, I'm a massive football fan, but people go, what's your view on Chelsea this season? Now I used to love that. Now I'm like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter anymore.
Who
like,
cares?
We're not playing great. We've got a new owner. The end. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, whereas and that would have been all I wanted to talk about before, because I didn't have any passions. Like, I didn't have a goal in life. Whereas now, as I say, in the 11 months, passed my driving test, did this, did that, I've done so much in 11 months. And I'm like, I didn't do that before because I had no real aim for anything. I was always the guy that would have told you what I could have been. I was always like, until my knee injury, I was bang average at football, but I lived off that knee injury more than I lived off my football career. I was bang average, but I'm like, the knee really cost me. And then I'd say stuff like, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, and I went to speak to a career advisor about it at school. And when I told her my name, she said, I've been told about you. I've been told you're going to waste my time and you're the class clown. Surely that would have been, right, maybe it is for you then if you're the class clown. And I was like, what the hell? And I talk about that. What I could have done. I didn't do it. I just used it as a cop-out and I went to the pub instead. So now I'm like 33 and I'm trying to kind of like relive where I messed up from. Yeah. It's like I'm trying to go back to 6 years ago and go, right, I can't do a 5-year plan backwards, but I can do the next 5 years and do what I should have done 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be 37 by the time I'm there when I probably should have been 27, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I think it is good to be okay with it as well, because there is this immense pressure just in society to
have it all together.
Have a house, have kids, have a marriage, have God knows what fancy car, been travel the world and all these things at a certain age and a certain timeline, but it literally does not matter.
It doesn't matter. No.
It really doesn't matter. Like, I've done so many things that I probably should have done 10 years later. Yeah. But the other things that I really wanted should have done earlier.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So like only now am I like in the past year or so have I actually gone, okay, now I'm building a career. Yeah. Whereas when I was like 16, I just thought I just want to get enough exams done so I can get into college. And then that in college it all flopped, so I just went into full-time work. I had 3 different jobs. I worked in bars. I love working in a bar, but there was no career in it for me because there's not a lot of money in it. Right? So I just thought, well, I'm just going to keep finding the highest paying job I can find. And I was passionate about one job, but it wasn't my company, but I treated it like it was mine. And that's kind of, when I left there, I kind of thought, okay, so it's got to be something I do myself. Because that's where I become passionate about it.
If it's doing it for the man as such, and just, then you lose that spark as such.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I want to be in control. I'm a bit of a control freak. So I want to be the boss of myself. I want to not set an alarm in the morning because I fucking hate getting up so early. Like, do you know what? I said that to someone the other day, so you'll probably relate to this, but someone was like to me, that will change when you have children because they wake up when they want. Well,
we've got a dream child. So 6:30 wakes up, goes to bed.
Not bad, is it?
We got the 11-hour sleep kid. I'd absolute touch with that. Because otherwise I'd be in a world of trouble. But I get up at 6 every morning now. But that wasn't my routine. As I say, my routine before was going to bed at 6. So whether it's just switched it around, but I do sleep well, and I get up at 6. I don't set an alarm either. Because I have one in the next room because he's up at 6:20, 6:30 anyway. But if he slept in, the latest he sleeps in is 7, and that's a lay-in for me now. But I actually enjoy that part of it. Whereas I know, but like you say there, you know yourself that isn't for you. That isn't going to change. That's just you as a person. People try and force this. No, you've got to get up. It isn't for you. Whereas me getting up at 6 and jumping in the ice bath clearly is for me. It isn't for my missus. She's got in it twice. Fair play to her. But it's not going to be a thing. It's not going to be a thing. Fair play to her for trying, but it's not her thing. So you can't force something on someone. You can't force sobriety on someone. You can't force beer on someone. You can't force a lifestyle on someone. You know yourself that you don't like getting up at 6:30 in the morning because it isn't your thing. So why 100%. Do it? 100%. So find something that can help work with that, like a job.
It always made me feel so shit. Like, if I was ever late to work or anything, it was always an alarm problem. If there's just something in my brain, even from a child, that just I struggle with mornings.
But then you go into it with a defeatist attitude for the day, right? Because you're like, oh my God, because you're rushing around.
I'm stressed because I woke up late. Whereas now, I don't set an alarm. I just wake up when I wake up, and which is usually about 9, 10. Ease yourself into the day. Sometimes I wake up earlier and I'm like, bonus, but I don't put pressure on myself when to wake up, and I just get on with my day, do my work. I do probably like a 10-hour day on and off, sometimes even longer, but I just like doing things in my own
your pace.
And I really enjoy it. So I finally found something I actually like, which feels so good, because I feel like, there's so much I can do with this, I would love to open a content studio. I would love to run an agency of agents I've trained. Like, I need more than one of me.
Well, you have a target. Like, seeing your name has been mentioned on 5 or 6 separate occasions in the barbershop about your post, which is like, and even when I said today where I was going, they're like, oh yeah, I know exactly who you're on about. And that's like credit to you the fact that what you're doing is getting seen. So like on the Life in Stony page is all pushing all that, and it's been brilliant. And we were talking about it, and Dave at Hairmasters, bearing in mind he's been there for years and years and years, he's like, love what she's doing, by the way, trying to break the mold a bit. And I was like, that's exactly what she's doing. She's trying to do something different than what has been done for the last 30 years, because it isn't working anymore. Yeah. In Stoney's sense. Oh, yeah. Like if you're specifically on about Stoney's sense, you're trying to go, well, actually, let's have a look at it from a younger set of eyes who can see it for what it is now. Instead, you've got 8-year-olds going, well, actually, it isn't that anymore, mate. Like the tickers tockers. It's not tickers tockers. It's TikTok, mate. Like, they don't understand that kind of. Do you know what I mean? Whereas what you're doing has been seen. And that's the hardest part, I think. Yeah. No one's going, who?
I honestly did not think I would make that much of an impact. So it started with, I actually was speaking to a client met through that page in Stoney earlier this week. And it started with me seeing a ton of business owners in the town complaining that this town weren't keeping them afloat. Yeah. Complaining that, and then people in the town were responding to that, going, well, no one wants your product. Yeah. And I think both of those individual issues, they are wrong about. I think you can't be marketing like the way you are. It's not working. No, social media is how I buy 90% of things I buy now. Yeah. Like if I see something on TikTok, that brand awareness, I've seen it about 6 times. So I know it's vouched for. Yeah. Yeah. And I literally researched the product all online. It's convenient at my hand any time of the day. Like I don't have to spend time going into a shop learning about that. No. I already know everything about that product. Yeah. You've done the legwork instead of having to go in there and do it, right? Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like word of mouth marketing will always be the most powerful. Yeah. But when it comes to social media, it's a very similar experience because word of mouth is just being spoken into a video.
It's the same with that, as you say, like with TikTok, with Instagram, with things like that, the sponsored ads. Just share them. Yeah. Put them in your group chat. Boys, you seen this? Like, that's what I do. Like, and that is as simple as that. And that is the new school word of mouth. Yeah. What do you think of this, boys? Like, 100%. Oh, that's all right, isn't it? 2 of them might go, I'll buy it. The rest of them might go, what on earth's that? But 2 people then might tell their 2 people, and then so on and so on, which is what word of mouth was the original version of. And I just don't think the older generation want to move with the times as much. We had it with the appointment system at Hairmasters. We were like, right, we're going mainly online booking. We're too busy. We can't have people queuing for 3 hours. It's not fair on the customers. And it was stressing us out as staff. So we went down that route. Oh, boys, no, we're not doing it. Okay, cool. Well, sit down, mate, and we'll see you as soon as we can, but you're going to be a while. COVID was the best thing that ever happened to us in that sense, because then you had to, because of the track and trace stuff. Yeah. Now they're going, oh, your app system's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, we told you 3 years ago, mate. It's been good for 3 years. Now you use it. Like, oh, and I can pay online now. Oh, yeah, you can, because they've closed all the bloody high street banks. And you're like, yeah, like, do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And then they go on to the Stoney's got a problem now. What's happened there? Only Nationwide left. And you're like, then they're back onto it again. Stoney's done this, Stoney's done that. And you're like, Jesus Christ. All of that from us getting the app system. Like, people will move with the times, but sometimes they've got to be pushed to.
Oh, yeah. That's why the community page I created, it provides something for them to learn daily. So like I repeat a lot of what I say every like 90 days. So because it's just too overwhelming to monitor the page daily. So what I do is I schedule everything in advance, and then I recycle it and add new things that I've learned in that space of time, because socials change and update very quickly. So adding the minimum basics that, you know, most people should know or need to know to just to get started, then that has kind of brought me clients. So that has obviously it benefited me. But at the same time, it was almost like, well, I've been doing this for 8 years. Like I worked in the vape shop in Stoney.
I remember you there. Yeah, I remember you went there. Yeah,
that is where I started. I built there.
And that was brand new, right? I think you the first person. You did, yeah. That was I remember that.
Opened it, run it, managed it. Yeah. Because I worked in their Bletchley store, and their intention was to open that store, and they just needed someone. That was local to there, because then they didn't have to pay travel costs and stuff like that. Yeah. But well, to their delight, I was pretty good actually. So what I did is, in that time, because Stoney at the time was a very quiet high street. It was, I think kind of relating to, they didn't want to change with the times. I remember there was this dispute on one of the posts I created once, because you know how some members of the town are very, very passionate about people being wrong. And sometimes I put this post up saying, I can't remember what it was, but in the comments there was someone who commented, I think he lived in Old Stratford, and he said, as an outsider, there is this very strong kind of community that's like private, where like everyone knows everyone, but they don't want to allow others in.
Okay.
And because I've lived in Stoney my whole life, I 100% saw it. I thought, yeah, I get it. I've been like that to people that I'm friends with. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't get it because you're not a Stoney girl.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's like a badge of honour.
Yeah, so you're just like, I've lived in my whole life. I know everyone
Don't you
and
know?
everything.
Yeah.
And like,
I agree with that.
yeah, and you just kind of like, that's not how the community is here and blah, 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 blah. And it created this huge fuss because so many people in town were like, no, that's not true. And then they were listing things that proved that point.
They proved that it was.
Yeah, and I thought, well, a lot of people are talking about we're not having enough customers, because that's what, you know, other shops I've managed have said before, like, oh, it's because we're not getting enough customers. And you don't get enough customers because of marketing. So
100%.
Conversion is so different to actual visitors, and to increase your visitors, you kind of have to do a very powerful stand out marketing to get people's attention. With a vape shop, it was very different. People were addicted to the product.
Yeah.
So,
and it was new and it was fresh and everyone, it was you hit it on the right curve, right? It was that point when it suddenly everyone wanted it. Move into a busy high street, or a busy enough high street that's you're gonna get the footfall, right?
Yeah. So when we did that, it was quite different to the advice I can give on the Stoney page, because with a vape shop, you cannot market it the same.
No.
It's all word of mouth marketing.
It has to be specific to that because it's such a specific product.
And it's also an over 18 product.
Yeah.
So there are huge restrictions. You can't pay for ads.
Yeah.
Your content will get taken down if you talk about nicotine or have
and positively
a graphic.
as well, like and trying to promote it.
Yeah.
Which is what a marketing is. You're promoting something, but you can't
100%.
promote it either because of the product it is. Yeah.
So I had to kind of create their social content, which mostly was product photos, and they never did well. But what I did learn is about the data of socials, and so I just started doing that for myself, and a couple of other people that would ask for my help with that. And then over time, I kind of thought, oh my god, I found what I want to do, and it actually feels so fulfilling to help people locally. Yeah, like I guess you probably can experience the same thing. You look after everyone's barnet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly like walking down the high street, like you see so many people and you're like, hello mate, you're right. Yeah. And the missus will always say like, who's that? I'll cut his hair. I do. Oh, I've done his hair since this time. Oh yeah, I used to do his hair, but he moved, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's, you become, and I'm exactly what you said about the Stoney thing. So I was born Bletchley, grew up in Bletchley, went to school in Bletchley, I've only lived in Stoney for 6 years. I've now moved to Wolverton Mill. But I worked in Stoney.
Next door.
It's next door, isn't it? Yeah, it's a walk, like a 10-minute walk at best. Like but it's the weird thing is, if I met someone away who doesn't know me, and I said, "Where are you from?" You know that conversation you get when you're at a gig or something. So where are you from? I'd be like, Stoney, Stratford, Milton Keynes. I'm not. I'm from Bletchley. I have no links to Bletchley other than my mum still lives there. It wasn't my childhood home. I moved in there when I was 15, so I don't have that. You know, when you go home as they call it, I don't have that. I don't walk in there and go, I'm back where I all started. It's not. I was there when I was 14, 15. So I say to people, I'm from Stoney. And I realised that the old school Stoney goes, no, he's not. But I've also worked here for 9-10 years. Yeah. So I feel like I've done my apprenticeship of Stoney. So I know it.
Yeah.
I understand it when you see someone from Post and stuff. And I'm thinking, I've got no idea where that shop is. Like we're gonna have to close down. I think I've walked past it every day. There was one that's near, I won't say the name of the shop, but they were saying they were closing down, and I was like, I looked where it was. I was like, I actually walk past that every day because it's next door to a place I go every day for lunch, and I didn't know they existed. Yeah, there has to be something wrong there. Yeah, the marketing 100%. Has to be wrong. It isn't signposted. I don't know what they've done wrong, but it's wrong.
Shops that I literally would send them a message saying, you need to put a sign outside your shop saying you are a shop.
Yeah,
you look like a house.
100%.
And there was so many businesses not on Google Maps.
Yeah.
And luckily,
or if they were, it was the old company.
Yeah.
I've seen that was the old company name. You're like, update it. Like, Jesus,
do you know
update
what?
the name.
I actually went through. It took me a few months. I went through about 75% of the businesses in Stoney, and I can do the edits. So
you can do it on Google, can't you?
Anyone can.
Yeah.
So you can go onto Google Maps and you can suggest an edit, and you can basically say, this business is here,
and it's not what it says it is.
Or you can say this business doesn't exist, or this business is not open on this day. So I would always check your own place, just because
the staff of the own place don't do that themselves. Because if it's not up to date, and that's killer as well, because that's again with the word of mouth side. You go somewhere and it's closed and it says on Google it's open. You go, don't go there, it's never open. And you'll go, all right, I won't. Like, do you know what I mean? Simple as that. Like, there's no point then. Like, and that is how simple it is.
Yeah, it is.
That's crazy. I didn't realise you could edit them all that easily.
Oh yeah, you can just like I didn't know either. It's because I was telling so many people how to do it, and I was like, oh, everyone's taking so long. And then I just did it, and I was like, oh, I can do most of this.
Yeah.
There's only one person in the whole town that I haven't been able to solve their problem. It is a hair shop, and there is a hairdressers and barbers in the same building, and because they have the exact same address. They have to do it. I can't do it. Because otherwise I would basically have to close the other business and open theirs. So that's the only conflict there. But everything else I've been able to do. But I actually enjoy it. Like, it feels good. Whenever I meet clients, they say to me, oh, I love what you're doing. Like, you have no idea the amount of content I see from stuff in Stoney now. And it's just from kind of giving people that push. Like, it's not a weird thing, because most people, even around my age, don't even like to take photos. So it's such a different thing in generation. Like, my brother and sister are 17, 18, around that age, some of the youngest. And they have grown up with phones.
That's all they know.
They don't know any different. They have no issues with taking photos and videos unless they're just not a fan. Most people their age are glued to their phone. It would probably give them a panic attack taking it away from them.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, I remember it did happen to my sister once. Like, she was very young, and I remember she was being a brat. Like, she must have been like 10 years old. She was well young. And I took her phone off her and I said, you're not going to speak to your mum like that. And she had a panic attack at 10 years old.
That's mad.
And I thought,
that's worrying,
Jesus
though, isn't it? In your head, you're like, wow.
Yeah. And you realise that they are so dependent on that device. Like, it's not the same as taking it away from my generation when it's like, oh, you're grounded from your phone. You're like, oh, damn it, can't talk to my friends.
Yeah.
There's no emotional attachment to that.
Well,
thing
everything's
in the
on
same
it.
Sense.
Everything's on it. Your friends are on it. Your friends are also just around the corner, but they're there. They feel the real version of them is around there, but you're using the phone as your contact to them.
I wonder if the younger generation knock on each other's doors like we used to.
I saw that on a meme, and it was like, one day you played out for the last ever time and knocked on your friend's door for the last ever time, and you didn't even know it was the last ever time you'd do it.
Yeah.
That broke my heart. I was like, it's weird if I did it now. If I knocked on my mate's door now as a 33-year-old dad and be like, go play football down the park, you'd be like, let's come in and have a chat, shall we? Like, are you drinking again? But
you can't just turn up like this.
You can't just keep doing this. Put a top on. So I feel like it would be like, it'd be quite weird to see that now. Like, but at one point we just stopped doing that. I don't know if people do that anymore. I don't know. Like,
I want to know. I want to know if people still do that.
I do. Yeah.
Also, I wanted to speak about, actually touch on it as a topic, the ice baths. What got you into that, and what? How does it work? How does it benefit you? How did you hear about it? Learn about it? What's the process?
That was again all part of the sobriety stuff. So when I started the whole sobriety, I've always, going back a bit, even when I was like drinking heavily, I'd always have a cold shower in the morning. So the cold shower was to wake me up, because I knew that I clearly looked blurry-eyed. I knew that I didn't feel good. So I'd have a cold shower. I'd flick it to cold for the last 45 seconds. I'd stand under it. And I had this really, really weird saying that I used to say to myself in the shower, which was, positivity is key. I made it up myself. It makes no sense, in the sense of like some weird like rhyme, like positivity is key. Meaning, if I can convince myself I feel okay, people will think I'm okay.
Yeah.
False mirrors. Ta-da, I'm great. Who's next? Which customer? Take a seat. You want highlights, do you? What's your name? Jay. Okay. And that was how I felt it was, and I could just blag it. And I felt that the cold shower did that for me, got me going. So when I went sober, or started the first week or second week of sobriety, I was like, what used to work? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and have a cold bath, see how that goes in my own house. Did it, and then I was also watching a lot of podcasts. Dapper Laughs has got his Menace to Sobriety. Obviously, as himself as Daniel O'Reilly. He did it with Kirk Norcross for a while, and he's doing it on his own. Stopped for a while he's doing his stand-up. But he was a massive part, because I saw a lot of myself. I was like, he's an idiot, he's a piss taker, he's a joker. He's done it to a bigger extent, because obviously he went to he went on to have his own shows and things like that. But I loved his style as such. And then I suddenly saw he was sober, and I was like, oh my God. So I started watching his videos, and he was doing the ice baths.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, I do cold baths. But the reason I then got the ice bath was because I did 4 cold baths every day, every morning to get myself going. And the missus said, you are just killing our water bill. And she was like, you cannot have a bath every single morning and then a shower in the evening and then a bath again. Like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I need to get myself going. I feel like it gets me going for the day.
Yeah.
And then one of my good friends, Connor, moved out to Thailand. And he said he sold his house and he's disappeared. He said, I'm going to Thailand for as long as possible. At least 5 years is the plan. And he said, do you want anything of mine? I was like, oh, okay. He goes, so I haven't got to put it in storage. So he said, do you want my golf clubs? He goes, oh, I know what you want. I've got an ice bath. I was like, oh my God, yes, I want that more than anything. Right? So he brought it round the day before he flew out to Thailand.
Oh my God, guys, I can't believe that the camera cut out during filming this episode. So part 2 is coming out tomorrow. Make sure you go and watch that straight away. We are not done talking about the ice baths. We have so much more to unpack. This is one of the most valuable conversations I have ever had. Please make sure you are watching part 2 tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If you have watched all the way through, please hit like, subscribe on the YouTube. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast platform you're listening on, please just make sure that you do every kind of interaction so that I can keep having these valuable conversations on camera and delivering this every year. You never know. The more you support the show, the more pods I can create, the more guests I can have on. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you watch part 2.